The reason why I'm mentioning that driving laws have to change is because globally there's something happening to people that people don't realize is impacting their health, and that health impacting factor increases during summertime globally, which is that because of certain kind of pesticides used in our food, which also gets into our spices and other food products, that even the packaged food products sometimes have a lot of food adulteration in them, or food problems from chemical contamination in them, all of which combined means that globally many of us are consuming some unhealthy food. And if you are diabetic, if you have high blood pressure, if you have cardiac problems, if you have epilepsy related problems, all these as it is can impact your driving functions. If you have some diseases like Parkinsonism, Alzheimer's, mental illnesses, these are all also factors that can impact your driving capability. That's why it's important that the RTOs of any country, or the vehicle moving vehicle departments who give licenses to people, become more mindful about what kind of guidelines should be in place in a particular city regarding driving laws. Because as people age, or if suddenly they have faced some health incidences because of COVID and other prevalent health problems that have risen in a particular city, those things, city by city, village by village, town by town, should be put into place in the laws of that place. Otherwise, what will happen is, if someone is deliberately tampering your vehicle to lead to your accidents, that should be considered as not just manslaughter but also danger to everyone else on the roads. Because most of the time I think it is only considered as a manslaughter, or I don't know what else, what are the legal laws regarding this. But if this guy's death was a deliberate death, there are a lot of other laws that should come into place if someone has deliberately self-sabotaged someone and led to their death, or led to the accidents that have led to deaths of other people on the road. Then the other factor that could impact his health, which I at that time didn't realize, which had caused one of my accidents, and later on in life when I finally found the evidence for it, I correlated with the back history, was the fact that for me what happened, I realized that even though I have eaten yeast containing food products for a long time, like I have eaten bread, I have eaten buns, I have eaten paos, I have eaten different wheat products containing in cakes. So all these wheat products I've consumed regularly throughout my life. I've eaten burgers in US, I've eaten dosas in India and US. So I've eaten dahi, which also has yeast. So yeast is a common ingredient in many of these products I mentioned. I've eaten chole bhature, there also you have yeast. I've also eaten Chinese food where soy sauce has yeast in it. So there are many food groups that I've eaten, international and national food groups, which have yeast content in them. But despite having eaten lot of yeast containing products, what I didn't realize was happening to me until a recent report showed it up in a report. It showed that I have something called yeast allergy. So whichever yeast they had used in that lab showed up from my blood. When they tested that yeast with my blood content, whatever they do to do this allergy testing, because I am not working in a allergy testers lab, so I don't know what they use as a control to see whether someone has a allergy or not. But their report showed that I had allergy to yeast and particular variants of yeasts. And this I now correlate with something that was happening to me as a result of consuming food with yeast, which is that sometimes certain food groups that I would consume that had yeast in them, in recent years I was getting really drowsy after consuming yeast containing food. And in the past in US, one time I had gone for a Napa Valley wine tasting. Wine also sometimes can have yeast in them if the wine is not filtered the right way. And in one of those wines that I had consumed, the wine testing thing that we were doing as a group involved us getting 5 wines to taste every a few minutes while they were giving us a tour of that place. And this was not in Napa, this was in Sonoma. So in Sonoma Valley, when we went there, we did the wine tasting. And when we were doing the wine tasting, after like just 2 wines, I was feeling so drowsy. I told my friend I'm not gonna do the rest of the wines, and I distributed the wines to my friend and her husband and other people in our group. They finished the rest of the other extra wines that we were given to us. And I was so drowsy for almost nearly 2 hours after consuming just 5 ml of 2 different wines. I was extremely drowsy. At that time, I didn't know why I was drowsy. I just knew that wine makes me drowsy. And it also happened another time with some friends. I had gone out to eat food with them, and in the dinner time they ordered some wine after dinner. And in that wine also, because I don't drink normally, I didn't drink. Like, I have consumed alcohol in my 20 years as an adult, 25 years as an adult. I have hardly tasted any kind of alcohol. And in that drinking also, when they were ordering wines, one time they were like, just try it out. So I just took a sip of the wine they had ordered. So it was not even 1 ml consumption of wine, but from that 1 ml consumption, and that time I had had naan and all that. It was an Indian restaurant. Now naan also can have yeast in it, so any kind of yeast in food plus this 1 ml wine suddenly made me really drowsy, because I had only taken a sip of my friend's drink. So in that sip also, I was so drowsy. So these couple of instances from wine made me realize I have allergies to wine, or it makes me drowsy. But what happened after I found out about the yeast allergy is that a few years before this yeast allergy showed up in a blood report, I was also consistently, when consuming certain bread products, I was feeling really drowsy after eating those bread products. Either bread or bhature, these kind of food groups, or even soy sauce related allergies showed up for me suddenly, because this is how allergies work. You may have a mild level allergy when you were younger, but suddenly, if you know, many allergens are present in your blood which hasn't been cleared away by your body because some kind of health problem is happening in your body, that is preventing the clearing of all these things that are allergic to your body. What happens is, if a lot of allergens have accumulated in a person's body, the same allergen which could maybe cause only mild drowsiness in someone suddenly was causing me extreme drowsiness, that I was instantly falling asleep. And this thing can happen like if you have had a heavy meal, or even if you had a normal meal which is not even heavy. You just had one bowl of chole bhature and that's it, or you had pav bhaji and that's it. You didn't have anything else except normal food that you consumed, and you have consumed for many decades of your life, which has yeast in it. But say your body is suddenly developing a yeast allergy, or say the yeast content in the food that you consumed that day had enough yeast in it that your allergic response was higher, then you can end up having the same drowsiness that I had. Not necessary that your allergy will show up as drowsiness, but for me, my yeast allergies have shown up as a drowsiness symptom, which is a very bad thing. Because say you're driving and you just had dinner or lunch, and you are the driver for your family, and while you're driving on the road, and initial 15-20 minutes after dinner, nothing has happened to you. But say, you know, it is, you have been driving for 1 hour now, and in that 1 hour the food has got digested, and now that food is interacting with your system and brains to suddenly cause a drowsiness. So even if you have been driving okay for 1 hour, suddenly you can get this rush of drowsiness that can prevent you from concentrating on the roads. And these kind of things are necessary, not just from the government perspective, RTO perspective, legal perspective, but these healthcare perspective wise also, this is important to know. And self healthcare related perspective, this is even more important for people to understand about their own health. if you aren't mindful, if your wife isn't mindful, if your my friend used to be very mindful when she drives with her husband, because she knows if her husband gets distracted, it will risk her health, her husband's health. When they had kids, it will risk the kids' health. If they have other guests driving in the car with them, it will risk everyone's health. So when my friend's husband is driving, she is always very careful to be the one navigating him in order to ensure that no accidents happen. Or if she knows that he is getting very drowsy while driving for whatever reason, maybe he is tired, they both are mindful enough to go and drink a little bit of coffee to drive carefully. But now these are the examples of friends who are mindful. Or I am also mindful that when my blood sugar was low, I stopped my car immediately and ate the food, so before driving further. But there are many people who ignore these symptoms and signals given by their body, and they continue driving. Because this boy, it could also have happened if he had gone to collect money from someone, and if they deliberately want to sabotage him. There are also sociopathic people, also murder oriented people, also people who are crime oriented, that can put food, adulterate your food. And he could have been offered. And in India, it's very common that if a guest comes over, even if they are work colleagues comes over, you offer drinks to everyone, you offer food to everyone. It's a very common practice. You offer sweets to everyone in Bengal. So these are the common places where people get offered either sweet or tea or drinks, cold drinks, something. But now in this tea and coffee or cold drink or sweets that are usually offered to guests in Bengal, what if someone had tampered any of these foods deliberately and led to this guy now having consumed some medications that will cause drowsiness to him? That is also another reason why he could have been wobbling on the road, because he was feeling drowsy, and that's why he lost control of his car. So, and if he was drowsy, he will look very different on the camera versus if he was panicking that the brakes are failing, versus if he is panicking that the tires are wobbly, versus every kind of incident that was resulting in this accident is dependent on his facial expressions. So if good cameras are not there to register his facial expression, you cannot detect what happened or not happened. If the camera has good capturing capacity, it can even detect what was going on and what was the root cause of his accident. Now, if they didn't deliberately tamper also, there is another scenario where someone's health can be in distress in India currently and also globally during summer times, which is water pollution parameters. Our waters and our food, and not just water pollution, our foods are also extremely polluted in India currently, because of which any chemical content in the food itself, because of water and earth pollution, can make a particular food poisonous to us. I have faced this when I went to Rajasthan. In Rajasthan, I found certain foods had high content of something called organochlorine pesticides. Because of, and I have found meaning, I detected it via a intuitive way of understanding it. And some logical guidelines of why it would be prevalent there in Rajasthan is present in the local practices of Rajasthan and its neighborhood states. About this Rajasthan incident, I will talk later, because again it's a long topic. But the main thing is, they did have organochlorines and other organophosphate pesticides in different parts of Rajasthan. Because of these pesticides being prevalent in the water systems of Rajasthan, even though the places where I stayed use RO water, despite that, RO doesn't filter away all the chemicals that are found in a particular place. So because RO has been created only to purify water technically from microbial and particulate matter impurities. None of the RO filtration systems have been created in India to actually purify, if unless other than RO, other filtration elements are present in that system. If it is a pure RO based water filtration system, I have particularly faced this in a homestay that I stayed. It doesn't filter away all the chemicals that are there in their underground water supply. So because it's common in Rajasthan for people to, and not just one place, I found this in two different homestays I stayed in Rajasthan. Both the homestays, whatever in their locality has the chemical pollution problem, that chemicals are not getting completely filtered by a RO device, and when it is not filtered by a RO device, it means that now at least 50%, RO does filter away some impurities, but if 50% of it is still staying there, or some percentage of the chemicals are still staying in your water, what you're doing is you're not consuming pure water. When you're not consuming pure water, you're consuming water with chemicals, and whichever chemical is being used in your homes and homestays and restaurants, and this water pollution problem I found in restaurant food also, I found in homestay related water usages also, I found in the bathing water. The bathing water is obviously the most contaminated because there is no filtration system. So in the bathing water, washing water, whatever chemicals are there in their underground water is coming, and this is not simply prevalent in Rajasthan, this is prevalent globally. In any place you will go, if you have an underground water supply and if your underground water is contaminated, even if you use RO, you reverse osmosis based filtration system for your water, the reverse osmosis doesn't filter out everything related to the chemical contaminations in your area. And many people do survive. Today only a friend is saying that I have seen so many people surviving with using plastic or using detergents. Yes, you might be surviving right now, but that doesn't mean you have a good quality health. Surviving through something and having great quality health are two different things. That person who is consuming a lot of detergents in their regular washing, they're doing a lot of, and hotels and restaurants and hospitality industry uses the most detergents. That's why the water pollution in the hotel, water pollution in a restaurant, water pollution in a homestay will be the highest contaminated with chemical detergents of any kind that is used for washing clothes or linen or just bathing or just cooking, right? Everywhere you use, we are normalized into using a lot of chemicals in our daily lives. But while research data exists that some of these chemicals are extremely harmful for our health, and apart from this, why is there any places local water supply contaminated with pesticides? One, it can be contaminated with normal use of pesticide by that home itself, hotel itself, homestay itself, and the second layer to it is, even if they don't use a lot of pesticides to maintain the pest control of their area, but if the food they are getting, the farmer has used a lot of pesticides or the supplier has used a lot of pesticides while supplying you with a particular vegetable or animal product or whatever you use for selling to your customers, those foods now they have chemicals in them, which when you are washing them, where is that water going? That water is also going to your underground water supply. So any place that in a city or a town or a village, if they use underground water supply and for 30, 40, 50 years you have used a lot of chemicals in that area, the person who was 50 years older to us, who was born at the time of India where 50 years back there was not that much chemical use, their health will naturally be, even after 50 years of use, if they had another 30, 40 years of use where they didn't use a lot of chemicals, they would naturally be more healthier than me, who might have lived in that same area for 50 years and now I'm only a 40-year-old, 40 plus person. But whatever is my age, I'm just saying hypothetically, if there are two people in a family, a father and a son, if the father lived in that home for 70 years of his life and the son lived in that same home for 45-50 years of his life, while living in that same area, when the father was alive 100 years back, we didn't have so much chemical pollutants on earth. So if the father is a 80-year-old, even 80 years back there was not that many chemical pollutants on earth. So a 80-year-old man, if he had led a very nice chemical pollution free life for at least 30-40 years of his life, he has a better health status than a 40-year-old man who from birth only never had access to good clean water, air, anything. food. So that 40-year-old will, that's why only in COVID, when so many 40-year-olds and middle-aged people died, they have all died because if there is a father and a son, if the father had the luck for at least 30-40 years, having survived through a phase of earth where the parent didn't had completely clean water, food, air, and that 30-40 years advantage will show up in that parent. The parent will be healthier than the child who had more water pollution related, air pollution related, food pollution related contaminants in their food since birth. This thing I'm not able to explain to people, but it is something people have to understand logically, why a 70-year-old person can be fitter than a 40-year-old person, especially if the 70-year-old person went through those phases of life where health supportive factors were more during their health history. And again, a 70-year-old person who at that time, say when they were younger, there was less soap use, they are used to not using a lot of soap, versus a 40-year-old person who has grown up only using soap everywhere, every kind of soap. When I'm using the term soap, it means dishwashing soap to body washes to face washes to shampoo, anything which has this detergent surfactant action that is used for cleaning clothes, to machines, to our body, to our food, to vegetable washes also. All these are, I'm categorizing as a soap currently. You can categorize it as a detergent. Don't get technical with me right now, because the concept, I'm trying to explain the concept, and I know as a chemical industry person, or a person who has studied in chemical technology, I know that soaps usually have a different composition, detergents usually have a different composition, face washes usually have a different composition, but the net impact of any of these chemicals inside our body, some of these chemicals have similar net impact on our health. That's why I'm categorizing it together in one class. Washing chemicals, you can call them washing chemicals if everyone wants to get so technical about what word I am using, because if you are focused on the word I am using, you are missing the whole point of these videos, which is that high chemical usages have led to water pollution. And now with that water polluted source, if your home has a RO, doesn't have a RO, doesn't matter, if there were chemical contaminations in your home, daily home life, you are drinking water, drinking tea, cooking food, eating food in that contaminated water in your home, in your neighbor's home, all of it combined together, and you are living in the same city, so some common chemical contaminations will be present in the same city or town where you live, or in the same district of a particular city also, similar chemical contaminations will be most commonly prevalent. So that most common prevalence of certain chemicals in that environment can also add to, because organochlorines and certain pesticides other than organochlorines also, because classification also doesn't matter, but there are many chemicals that can cause epilepsy, there are many chemicals that can cause heart attacks, there are many chemicals that can cause respiratory failure, there are many chemicals which can cause organ damage and organ death. And when your organs are damaged and are going in a cell death spiral, if suddenly, say, for 30-40 years, slowly your body cells have been dying and they have not been recovering now, because our body cells naturally also die from normal processes of the body. But say those cells which were normally dying, say only, I don't know this part of the medical information, I don't recollect, so I don't know how many percentage of cells in our normal body dies usually. But say certain number of cells are dying, say that many percentage of cells are now not recovering back because you don't have health supportive factors in your life. What is happening is slow death is happening in your body. So someone's body where cells are dying, say they have an organ damage related problem going on because blood supply to that organ is not enough because of these chemicals they are consuming in their daily lives, and as a result slowly that organ that functions well now is slowly deteriorating in function. You can have a liver damage happening in your body, unfolding for 10-20 years in your body. But the day when you will die is not determined by just because yesterday you were looking fine, today you will not die, is no guarantee. You looking fine and you actually being ill, or you actually having a disease unfolding in your body are very different things. Anyone can look fine. Have you seen those people, actresses who are wearing mass of makeup to look like the most beautiful women in the world? Those same actresses, if you, some of them, if they don't wear makeup, they may not look as beautiful, right? Some of them don't. In fact, there are also some people who without makeup look much more beautiful than with makeup. But my point is, if someone is trying to beautify themselves by wearing makeup, does that make them beautiful, or it just makes them seem beautiful? The same thing applies to, if my organ damage has not been detected by any doctor, does that make me healthy, or does it just make me someone the doctor has not detected that I am healthy? These are two opposite kind of examples I'm giving, but the principle is still the same. That just because someone, if I find some actress very beautiful, and also beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, right? So if I find X actress very beautiful, Y actress I don't find beautiful, but someone else finds Y beautiful and X not beautiful, but in the eyes of God they both have some beauty, they may not have some beauty standards. That's all that is, right? But beauty is up to the beholder who is looking at something, right? But health is not like that. Health is not up to the eyes of the beholder. Health is a concrete thing where what you behold may not be what is actually unfolding for someone. Even a doctor makes mistakes, where if a doctor thinks a patient has only got 10% cancer, but actually they had 80% cancer going on, simply the area of their body from where the section was taken, there was only 10% cancer. Is the doctor right? Is the test wrong? Or what is the actual thing that will determine the status of the patient? The thing that will actually determine the status of the patient is when the doctor understands their data rightly, when the reports are able to detect the correct element of the patient's health, and when the patient specific factors are also supporting their health. Then only a patient survives through some disease long term. Otherwise, if while doing the test there was some error happening which led them to mistake that this person has less cancer, and they gave them, say they detected something and they decided this person has stage 1 cancer, but if that patient actually had stage 3 cancer, which for some reason that didn't get detected appropriately, if they have, because there are many reasons why it cannot get detected appropriately. Some individual, like how this driver's driving skills could have also determined that he had the accident, but for factors outside his control also could have determined his accident. Same way with health also, it's like that. There are some factors which will determine how good a doctor is, and there are some factors which will determine how good your medical condition is being detected by someone. And if they do not detect the right things, a person's health is at risk. And this is what is happening globally right now. People are not understanding the chronic impact of consumption of pesticides in our daily life, and detergents and different kinds of washing chemicals in our daily life. There is a long term health impact hidden in each of our bodies, and if this particular driver also was consuming like this many products that were impacting his health when he was driving, one day, even if 2 hours before, 2 minutes before this incident happened, he was driving okay, suddenly some massive cell death could have occurred in his body that could have caused him to lose control of his car. Because of the cell death, his heart could have been failing, his brains could have been failing, he could have been hemorrhaging if he had consumed something with hemorrhaging chemicals in it. Whatever was the reason for his death, multiple things could have led to his death. They said that he was hemorrhaging a lot, and this is what I have anecdotally heard. I don't know his health history, but hemorrhage based chemicals are also used quite prevalently in India by patients who have heart conditions. And if enough heart condition used medication is being used by a particular family, their water systems could be contaminated with now hemorrhaging chemicals. A hemorrhaging drug, if someone wants to poison you, is also used for killing rats. and that rat poison itself can hemorrhage you if someone puts it in your food deliberately to kill you, or a medicine that is used to help certain patients can also be, if someone is that crazy, they can put it in your food to deliberately sabotage your health. And I have faced a couple of health sabotages incidences. That's why I understand it. I am a pharmacist, former pharmacist. That's why I understand all the chemical threat related problems as well. So I'm talking about these things based on my own health incidences, based on sabotage related incidences that led me to go towards potential death trajectory a couple of times. Just because I was lucky doesn't mean the next time I drive I will not die. Same way, if a mentally ill person, just because he was never detected to be a mentally ill person, continues driving on the road, there is no guarantee when he is driving when suddenly his mental attack will cause him to kill someone, if they are that sociopathic level person who has killed people in the past. Or if someone is mentally ill, can't hear properly, or maybe they are not mentally ill, their physical health is just simply deteriorating from multiple factors related to their life and lifestyle and health, and if they are not able to hear properly, if they are not able to see properly, should those people have a driving license permission to drive? All these things are necessary. That if you are in US, at least there are sometimes diabetics wear diabetes bracelet, because diabetes related health incidences impacting someone's health while they are driving is a known fact. I'm not making up a story regarding diabetes. Diabetes related health incidences happen so commonly in US that for diabetes or cardiac patients, there are medical bracelets that are available which show that I am a cardiac patient, I am a medical patient. So like that, those guidelines are needed. If you are an epilepsy patient, you wear that. But say you are a patient with 5 different illnesses, all of which can impact your driving skills, should there be a judgment call made that if 5 different illnesses can potentially cause this person to have an accident, should that person be driving? And these laws are not there. And we also have drivers who are now driving on the roads who don't understand the health risks they are driving under. Because if a driver's vehicle maintenance policy or their company's vehicle maintenance policy is that you use pesticides regularly in your car because you are fed up with the cockroaches or fed up with the rats that are infesting your vehicle, which has happened to many people. And every vehicle that is driven currently in India, from airlines to the minorest vehicle that is driven, people spray mass amounts of pesticides on it, all of which, if you are constantly spraying pesticides, it also means that, or insecticide, rodenticide, anyone who is driving that vehicle, they have the most exposure to these chemicals. If in case of airlines and trains, it's not simply the driver who is having the most exposure to the chemicals. In case of these public transport vehicles, it's the conductor, it's the stewardess, it's the flight attendant, it's the train attendant. They are also getting impacted by the chemicals used regularly in that industry. And all these chemical usages, if you don't stop, most of those people are in the trajectory of suddenly having a health incident where they will not be able to function properly. And if an attendant doesn't know how to function properly, attendant is the leader of the train when the train is functioning. Driver is the leader of the train when the train is functioning. Some driver related deaths also that have occurred in train accidents or flights, because if the food they are consuming are blocking their mental processes, if the food they are consuming is suddenly giving them a heart attack, because pesticides can give you heart attacks, mold and fungus can cause brain fog. All these things people don't even know. Or detergents that they wear to make their clothes and uniforms look flashy, even those detergents and chemicals used to make their dresses flashy, because people give dry cleaning also. In dry cleaning, what are the chemicals used? The chemicals used in dry cleaning are pesticide type chemicals sometimes. If not direct pesticide type chemicals, like kerosene is used. Kerosene also, when absorbed a lot by your body, can cause brain fog and other kerosene specific health incidences. or if it is not kerosene, say it is kerosene plus you're wearing undergarments which have no noxenol, and you're wearing other clothes, you're wearing all these hair dyes now for coloring your hair, you're wearing the cologne to look smart, look great. All these chemicals combined together are doing a cocktail of problems inside your body, where for 30-40 years also you might have looked at the fittest human. But have you heard tales of some fitness freaks also who go to the gym regularly for one hour? Some people like that have also died in their 40s and 50s, even though they eat clean food, even though they do all clean health related practices. Despite that, they died. Why? Because it's not simply about them doing good cardio activity or good healthcare routines for 1 year or 2 year or 10 years of their life where their body was looking fit. They could have been doing that 10-20 years of healthcare practice. But if that 10-20 years of that 10-20 years of healthcare practice, if there is enough chemicals accumulated in their blood and in their body, in their organs, where slowly some of their organs are dying, outside you may look very well, but inside your body is not functioning that well, or it is slowly deteriorating in function, but you are not mindfully aware that your body is deteriorating. Regardless of whether you detect it or you don't detect it, whether your doctor detected it or they didn't detect it, if enough damage had happened in your body by a certain date, you will end up dying. Same thing with this boy. If enough damage had happened to him because of the factors related to his personal life, or the factors where someone has now sabotaged him and added something to his food, if enough health harming chemicals were present inside his body, he could one day suddenly have. Pesticides can also cause motor function distortions. So his hands could be having tremors now from direct pesticides being given to him, or slow consumption of pesticides via various sources, because our Indian food and water and air, everywhere pesticides are high. And the person who is inside a tempo will have little less exposure, inside a bus may have a little less exposure of air pollution related pesticides in the air. But someone who is driving a cycle, or someone who is in an open vehicle like a auto rickshaw or in a motorcycle or a scooter, they all have the most air pollution related exposure to pesticides if pesticides have been sprinkled in the air of a particular area. That could have also caused him suddenly to have a motor function failure, suddenly to have a eye movement failure, suddenly to have epilepsy, depending on what pesticide or chemical was sprayed there. So pesticides, fungicides, anyone deliberately poisoning him, all these need to be investigated, not just for him but for everyone else now who is driving on the road. And say he had consumed that day some pesticides, or for that whole year that food that was supplied to that area was containing epilepsy causing pesticide, and that epilepsy causing pesticide in their food or spices led to slow accumulation of pesticides in his body. His health was slowly deteriorating and suddenly he got a epileptic attack. Epileptic attack also causes people to lose control and they cannot function and drive. So all these awareness, who will give? The government. Who will give? The people. And if government doesn't look into any of these, if healthcare institutes don't look into any of these, even if the cops don't look into any of these, sometimes wrong causes will be ascribed to wrong people and the culprits will go away scot-free. So that's why all these laws need to change, government policies need to change, because what has been normalized as a health safe paradigm is not health safe anymore, and there are health safe alternatives available. But in order to do those health safe alternatives, even the health harming alternatives have to be phased out in such a way that they don't get have a repercussion somewhere else. Because what has happened with some of these foods which have pesticides in them or fungicides in them, or foods that were rejected when they were exported somewhere, is that our laws are so lax. Sometimes those foods that are rejected by Europe or rejected by America, those foods or clothes come back to India. even after being exported, they are somehow brought back by the black market and other markets back to India. And now those foods that were rejected and off the label market foods are then sold on the streets, and poor people will go and buy a cheaper food when they don't have enough money. So that's why economic rising of people's population, having the right economic so that economic disparity doesn't occur, so that bad food quality doesn't get sold to poor people. That is the government only that can do the right reforms and norm changes, so that the poor people don't get mass amounts of poor quality food being supplied to them, right? All these foods and clothes with harmful chemicals in them, when if they go to a village, it is going to impact that village. And now if that village people are all impacted, who is going to do all your farming activities, all your manufacturing activities, all the activities the rest of the world is dependent on? So is it foolishness or not if we don't take care of the people who are doing the most laborious work, if we don't give them the best quality food, best quality clothes, the right food, right clothes? Are we self-sabotaging and causing a epidemic like situation to again happen in the modern world, like epidemics have happened 100, 200, 500 years back? All those epidemics had this same problem. All the plagues, all the epidemics, all the plagues even mentioned in the Bible, they all have the root cause of human exploitation in it, and humans forgetting ethics of business, ethics of doing something in their life. If you forget the ethics, you are going towards creating a world where people will eventually die as a consequence of the lack of ethics involved, or lack of right systems involved in understanding what is going on. So I hope this was meaningful, educational, will raise people's awareness and make people understand why they should stop using certain chemicals in their daily lives. Because if you don't stop using it, its impact has already shown up as COVID, already shown up as long COVID, already shown up as long-term cancer, already shown up as many other disease states that are directly linked to all these chemical usages. It's just that people are unwilling to put two and two together, or many people are also in denial that how can it be that for 40 years this person looks healthy. But just because for 40 years someone looked healthy doesn't mean that 40 years plus one day they will die from the same thing that was impacting their health, but they were just looking healthy. Someone looking healthy versus someone actually being healthy are two different things. In someone's doctor also proclaiming themselves as healthy doesn't also mean that they are actually healthy. Because if the doctor missed to see the red flags in someone's symptoms, didn't hear only the patient's whole history of symptoms, and also the doctor is unaware that chemical pollution in the environment can impact someone's health, and the doctor is also being as ignorant as a patient to think that how can all these things impact someone's health, because this is called denial. There is a lot of denial going on earth currently, and because of that denial, even though data exists, everything exists. What I am talking about is not something which is recent data. These are all past data. Emerging data is happening with COVID vaccines, but other than COVID vaccine related emerging data, everything else related to why vaccines are not working was already present before. Why flu shot vaccines aren't working, that data was already present in US when US government was giving flu vaccines to so many patients. Every year they kept marketing new vaccines, or for the new variant we will do this vaccine. But there is no 100% guarantee that even if they make a vaccine for the new potential variant that year, that you will not die of COVID that year or any other flu virus that year. If flu virus is present in your environment, the only way for you to not die from that flu virus or any other virus that is killing someone is to ensure that virus doesn't get a unhealthy body to work on. Unhealthy body is where the virus works the most. This also principally many people do not understand. This is also the reason why in the past pandemics have happened. I'll make a video on pandemics and epidemics in a different post. But here with driving related laws, many things have to change. With mental illness related laws also, many things need to change, because there are pretty much a lot of mentally ill, socially ill, anti-sociopathic, antisocial personality disorder holding people, who are still on the roads, who have no remorse, no regret for killing so many people on the road, and they are going scot free simply because they are rich. And because they have no remorse, they have done nothing to ensure that the patient who suffered because of them is continuing suffering, and they have no remorse. There are so many people like that. So do laws have to change that if you are not having remorse, if you don't have regret, if you have some kind of mental illness that prevents you, or social illness or social power that prevents you from holding even basic human decency of regret, that should be brought into the justice system's way of looking at someone's case, I feel. Anyways, whatever you feel about what I have presented in these two videos, please post a comment, and hopefully we can change this globally for people, because people's lives and health is not in a good status currently. COVID has already been giving the signals where we have to change, but if people don't change via COVID or other deaths in their own families, then it is going to be very difficult to have a clean earth, healthy life, good quality life. Healthy life and good quality life is not the same as a doctor giving you a clean bill of health. Only a right doctor can give the right clean bill of health if he understands everything related to all these things that I am talking about. Same way, if a judge is allowing some person who has raped someone, killed someone, to go scot free, again they were the society's clean bill of health person. So judges have to also be careful. Justice system, legal system also has to be careful about who are you allowing to get away with what you are allowing them to get away with. Because sometimes benefit of doubt, and sometimes giving someone credibility that okay, what they did is okay, can happen. But if they are repeatedly doing something, should you really forgive them, or should there be some laws to address these problems as well? So again, if you have any comments, please post your comments. I would love to hear from other people what they think about these issues. Thank you. Have a great day.